All right, well, welcome everybody. I want to welcome everybody to the Unity for Salesforce webinar. A couple administrative notes before we get started here. One, this presentation and demonstration will take about 30 minutes, and we will have a question and answer period afterwards, about 15 minutes time we've allotted, but we have extra time allotted to go a full hour if we have enough questions. Please, if you do have a question, feel free at any time to ask that question in the Q&A tab. You'll find it at the bottom of your screen. Go ahead and put your question in there, and we will get to them as they come in. Excuse me, at the question and answer period. Also, we are recording this webinar, and everybody that attends this webinar will get an email with a link to the recording so that you can share it or view it again. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. My name is Ellis Jones. I'm the Regional Business Development Manager here for the West. I am your moderator. I'll also be doing a little bit of presentation today. I'm joined by Andrew Scher. Andrew is our Solutions Manager here at Intellective. Andrew will also be presenting and actually doing a lot of the heavy lifting by demoing the actual software portion of this webinar. Also joining us is Rich Levins. He's our Senior Solutions Architect. Rich is going to join us for the Q&A period. So let's go ahead and let's get going. So the problem. So I'm going to start this webinar off by talking about the problem. Any good solution needs to solve a problem. So when it comes to the problem, what is it? What is it that Unity for Salesforce takes care of? So here's our typical employee using Salesforce, and they've just got a call in. Now that person calling in could be calling in for, hey, I want to know what's going on with my loan. I want to know what's going on with the service call. I want to know what's going on with the claim. And they're using Salesforce as a CRM, and they go into it. And the problem they have is the information they need for that customer, and it could be internal, external customer. They don't have the relevant content, data, or workflow. And this is caused by the fact that I'm here in Salesforce in my organization, and I also have outside, also in my organization is storing content. They also have workflow engines. They might be, that service call, that loan might be controlled by a business process engine, an application, and I also have data. And so when it comes to content, I may need to see documents stored in something like an IBM FileNet ECM system or any other ECM system. It can be something stored in SharePoint or Box or all of them, and I don't have access to them. Same thing for when it comes to workflow. I may be using something like IBM BAW or business automation workflow or case manager. I could be using something like Red Hat's BPM or any workflow, business workflow application. And of course, I could be looking for relevant data, and it could be something as simple as an ECM, an ERP system, an accounting system like Acumatica. Or I can be looking to get information just out of a SQL server. I just need information. And the problem I have, none of these are integrated with Salesforce. So I'm forced to swivel chair. I'm forced to stop, go log in, get access, and get this information. So, and this causes an issue with using the CRM system. So this is some information from HubSpot. They actually went out and they talked to people. What are the main challenges of using the CRM system? Why aren't you using it? Why aren't you adopting it? Now, this was done a little bit for sales, but I think it's still relevant for anybody using Salesforce or a CRM system today. Number two complaint or challenges about using a CRM system was lack of integration with order tools. Now, that's with order tools, but I think lack of integration with any business application or any repository is a major hindrance. Also, the issue of having incorrect or invalid data. So when you're not integrated to these main repositories where the real information is stored, what happens is within Salesforce, I get incorrect or invalid data. So then all of a sudden I start doubting what's in the CRM system. And of course, it becomes too complicated. I'm not going to use it because, none of the relevant information I need is in the CRM system. And of course, this all ties in with the number one issue. The number one issue is because I'm not integrated with anything, I rely upon my employees. I rely not just one, but all the employees to put the relevant information into the CRM system. So they're doing it manually. And when we rely upon things to happen manually, things don't happen, or I get incorrect information, or I have the wrong version of something put into the CRM system. And that causes issues with adoption for the CRM. And really what this comes down to is the customer experience. And when I say the customer experience, what I mean is internally and externally. It doesn't matter if it's a case, a claim, a loan, that when I have a CRM system that I don't have the relevant information, or I have to get out of it and go and say log into another system, I'm not really providing a great customer experience. And that can just be somebody within my company going, hey, do you know where this is at? And I'm like, I don't know where it's at. It might be over here. It might be in this repository. And studies have shown that internal customer experience is just as important as the external customer experience. They're linked. If your internal customers are being taken care of, more likely you're taking care of your external customers. So let's talk a little bit about the internal customer experience. So 38 minutes a day. Now I've been in content management or enterprise content management for almost going on 2 decades. And this number has changed, and I've seen wild ones of, half the day, 4 hours, things like that. But the latest research, and this came from Osterman Research, shows that on average, a single employee usually spends about 38 minutes a day looking for relevant documents in their day. That's just documents. That doesn't include data and, hey, what's going on with the service call? What's going on with the workflow? But when we look at some other studies, this one was done by Interact, a little bit less than 20% of business time is spent looking for data and documents that they need to do their job. And that's internally. Externally, so the external customer experience. A couple studies here. One was done by Walker, and this was a customer 2020 progress report. And the other one was done by PricewaterhouseCoopers. In 2020, so when they go out and they talk to organizations, what do they think is the experience that their customers want? And they found that in 2020, customer experience will overtake price and product as the key brand differentiator. And this is matched when they go out and they talk to people that are buyers. 86% of buyers are willing to pay more for a great customer experience. And also just a little bit back on the internal customer, a lot of people want to work for customers that have good internal customer experiences. So what's the solution? So what is Intellective talking about here? And what we're talking about here is Unity for SalesForce. That instead of having the swivel chair out of SalesForce and go log into another system and they gain access to maybe multiple repositories of content or workflow or data, everything's available centrally within SalesForce, the user interface that I'm using. So I don't have to worry that it's in IBM FileNet or in Box or Alfresco, or if it's in a workflow engine like JBPM or any other system. I have access to that information from SalesForce. And when I talk about this, it's not something that's been bolted on the SalesForce. It is SalesForce. It is linked within your SalesForce entities. It shows up as a tab. I can do one search. I can search all my repositories. Doesn't matter if it's content, doesn't matter if it's data. I can look at workflow. I can view it. I can modify it. I can add to it. I can take action. And most importantly is I don't lose any of the security or management features of those other systems. And what I mean by that is if in the ECM system, I'm only allowed to view content, I can't modify it. That control comes over. So even though I'm in Unity for Salesforce, I'm inside Salesforce. If I'm only allowed to view documents, that's all I'm allowed to do. If I can add to it, I can. So you don't lose that. But what we're providing is we're providing all that content, all that data, all that workflow, the things I need to do to provide that good customer experience for my internal, external customers, I have it right here within Salesforce. So at this point, we're coming to our Unity for Salesforce demo. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to hand this over to Andrew. And I'm going to stop sharing.
All right.
All right, Andrew.
Hi, everybody. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. All right, Ellis, can you see my screen?
Yes, I can.
Perfect. So we're going to show you a demo that's composed of a couple different use cases, because that's I think the clearest way that we can show some of the value that's behind the solution. So we've created a demo environment for a hypothetical insurance company. Now, insurance is just one set of use cases. This could be banking, this could be government, this could be really a full range, but we've chosen insurance for this one. So let's look at 4 different use cases at our hypothetical insurance company. So as an insurance underwriter, let's say I'm on the phone with a broker and I want to provide a policy quote to that broker. To do that, I need to find the right information quickly, but I need to make the right decision. If I quote a premium that's too low, then I lose money on the deal. Second use case, a claims representative. So I'm on the phone with a customer handling an issue they have with a claim. So as with any customer service, the customer wants a resolution immediately. They don't want to get handed off to another group, but I'm worried that that might happen here. So let's see how we can resolve that. Third one, business manager. So I want to view and improve business processes across my hypothetical insurance company. So that means I need to see content and process from anywhere in the organization, and I need to really dive in and be able to transact on things from one interface. And then fourth use case, SalesForce administrator. So I run a SalesForce instance. I have users that are using an application on it, and they want to change something about that. So how do I do that? So we're going to see using visual tools to make those changes and show how you can implement changes quickly without coding and without having a 6-month development cycle. So let's take a look at what this looks like. So here we have SalesForce. And this is just a generic SalesForce instance. Again, it's configured to be an insurance demo. Let's take a look starting with our first use case. So let's say I'm an underwriter. Brokers called me up and they said, I want to book a policy for Burlington Textiles for a fleet of vehicles. So give me your best price. So the problem I have is I need to make a fast decision because I know from the industry that this broker is probably talking to 2 or 3 different insurance companies. If I don't get them a quote back soon, then they're just going to go with someone else who responded faster. But I also need to quote the right price. Like I can't quote something that's super high or super low. I need to come in at the right level. Now, what information do I need to do that? I need to know Burlington's revenue, employee numbers, information about this company that I'm doing the quote for. I may need to know what's their current policy, what are they currently using. Now, the company information is in SalesForce, but their current policies are managed in a different system. Let's say it's in FileNet. And then let's say I also need to see some of their customer documents, and my company just started using Box to allow customers to quickly kind of add documents to the system. So now I need to look in a third system to look for information. And then let's say I also want to look at their claims history. So now I need to go into a fourth claim system to get that information. So it's 4 different systems. So I'm going to spend all day trying to collate all this information to provide a quote to this broker, except for my company has installed and is using Unity for SalesForce. So we're going to see how that makes my experience much easier and better. So let's start by pulling up Burlington. So I'm going to open up this Burlington account. This is, again, just very standard vanilla Salesforce. From here, I can see standard Salesforce information about the customer, so I can look up annual revenue, employees, that sort of thing. But there's also these 3 additional tabs that are on here. So let me go ahead and click on the first one here. These 3 tabs are Unity for Salesforce. So they look like regular Salesforce, they smell like regular Salesforce, but all of the information behind these is coming from my enterprise systems. So this is how I'm getting all that information from Box and FileNet and my BPM system and claim systems, how that's all getting exposed to me as this insurance underwriter. So let's take a look at what that gives me. So under this all documents tab, I can see immediately all documents that are relevant to Burlington Textiles. So it's searched across all my different repositories. It's filtered down to show me only what's relevant to Burlington. And I can see a list of here's the documents that are relevant to this particular customer. So I can filter these. So let's say I want to look for things that are relevant to a fleet because I'm doing a quote for a fleet policy. So it filters down and shows me my documents. Now note, these are coming from different places. So one of these documents is in Alfresco, one of them's in FileNet. If I do a different search, I could have maybe Box that's mixed in here. So it's all coming from different places, but it's getting aggregated together into this one view. Now I can make changes to this view. So just kind of stepping back from the use case, just as a user, I can have a different kind of view that's here. I can have different fields that I can search on. I can customize the columns that are shown here pretty easily. So if I want file size to be shown, I can have different sets of tabs that are querying against different repositories. So everything you're seeing here is really highly configurable. So what else can I do? So let's say I want to search by content. So I'll search for just the word fleet in any of these documents. So it's pulling back both ones that have it in the title, but also this one underwriting document that has fleet embedded in the content. So let's actually take a look at some of these documents. So I want to see my fleet records. Let's say there's images that are in here, so I want to have a look at what the actual fleet for this for Burlington Textiles looks like. I have PDF documents. I have my actual policy, so let me open up that policy document, and it's pulling the content from that underlying repository. So in this case, FileNet, but as a user, I don't need to know where it comes from. I just know that I have content now. So I can actually take a look at the policy and pull out the information that's pertinent for this quote that I need to produce. So I have the information I need about the customer. I've gotten the policy information that I have. We saw how I can search for those different things. And I can do more than just see these documents. I can actually interact with the metadata for them. So I just clicked on properties for this. I can see all of the metadata properties that are relevant here. If I want to make changes to it, so let's say I want to make a change to the title or customer number or any of the other pieces of metadata, I can do it right from SalesForce, and then this change is propagated down to the underlying repository. So if another user is using a different system that's also integrated to this ECM system, they see my changes immediately. I'm not just only working in SalesForce. And then from here, I have access to all of the different actions that this underlying ECM repository lets me do. So this is a really key point. I have the ability to use all of the strengths of my enterprise repositories. So a lot of content management systems have a large number of features. They can store documents that are a lot larger than what Salesforce can do on its own. Business process management systems, there's often a huge set of features that are there. You're able to use all these features right from Salesforce without having to swivel chair and go into these different places. So let's say I'm producing my quote for the broker, and I want to add that and associate it with Burlington, so it doesn't get lost, maybe so it can be declared as a record, that sort of thing. So I'm going to say add policy document, and it's going to give me this nice simple interface for adding the document that I just created. So let's say I have my quote here. I'll drag this in. It's a nice drag and drop, standard kind of Salesforce interface. I'll say this is a quote for, let's say, what is it, June 11th. I can enter in metadata. I can say, okay, this is going to have a policy date of the 10th, something like that. So I'll hit save. And it is, again, it's adding that document into my underlying repository. I didn't need to know which repository I was supposed to go to. I didn't have to pick one. I just said, I want to add an insurance document. And then if I sort to take a look here, I should see, okay, there's my new document that was just added. So under the covers, this was added to FileNet. You can see under the different tabs here, I can have different kinds of searches. I can split my views, so I could direct users to look only at a particular repository, but I don't need to. I can show them all at once as well. So let's find my new document again here. And let's say, I made a mistake, or maybe I'm in a negotiation with the broker and I want to make a change to it. So I can use, so FileNet as a repository has this nice versioning check-in, check-out feature. So let's take advantage of that. I'm going to check out this document that I just added, and then I'm going to check in an updated version for it. So I'll pick my updated document. Let's say I made changes to this policy quote that we just looked at. I can check it in as a major version, minor version. Again, this is all rich features that are in the underlying repository. I'll hit save, and then that gets updated. And then I can see the history of updates to this file. So I have this nice versions tab that shows me, okay, there were a couple different versions that were added, who added them, when were they added, that sort of information. So one question that a lot of folks ask that I'll just address at this point is, well, what about security? Is this just showing me everything in the system? What if I have PII on documents, or what if I have legal documents that an underwriter shouldn't be able to see? So Unity for Salesforce manages that for you. It respects the underlying security of your repositories. So if I, as an underwriter, shouldn't see a particular category of documents, even though my search would otherwise show it up, it's going to hide it for me. So it's enforcing the security that you need to be enforced, and you can manage that security in your underlying repositories without having to then reconfigure a bunch of stuff in Salesforce. So we talked a little bit about the other tabs. So I can look in Box, for example. Let's see what documents are related to Burlington from Box. I can pick up and look at some of the customer documents if they've added them. So I've assembled all the information that I need to be able to produce this quote. I return the quote around to the broker while I'm on the phone with them, and I'm able to close that deal. Whereas before, I'd have to wait a couple days, and I would lose some of my deals from just not being able to answer immediately. So let's jump to the second use case. So let's say I'm a claims representative. So I work for Hypothetical Insurance as a claims customer representative. Let's say a different customer, let's say P&J just called me. So I'll switch to different account here. So P&J Construction. So let's say that P&J Construction has called me up and they're saying, well, we've got a problem with our policy document, and we have a question that we want you to answer about that. And then also, well, we opened a claim on Monday and we haven't seen any movement on it, and we really want that claim to be processed. So what's going on? So they're unhappy. They want answers quickly, but I'm a claims representative. Maybe I don't know where the policy is. I know it's in some system, but I don't have access to it. So I'm worried that I'm going to have to hand this over to maybe underwriting or another department, and then they're not really responsive. So P&J is going to get that much more upset. They're not going to get answers. So how do I address this? Well, again, we have Unity for Salesforce. So I can, through here, see all of my policy information, all of my policy cases, and I can also see their claim and be able to interact with that. So we spent a lot of time looking at this first Documents tab. Let's look at the second and third one, Cases and In Baskets. So let's say I know that they have a policy document, so I'm going to go through and look at the set of cases, policy cases that are related to them, and I can find the one that's relevant to their to the question that they're asking me. So let's see, I think it's this workers' compensation policy. So I'll go ahead and look at this. Now this is showing me the case with all of the history, all of the metadata on it, all of the documents that are related to it. So I can see the full set of detail, everything that's coming from my rich BPM system. That's our enterprise standard here. I can make changes to the metadata. I can see when was the inception date for this policy, and I can click on this Documents tab and immediately see what are the relevant documents. And I can also see the history for this case, which is particularly powerful. So I can see what are the different steps that this went through to reach this particular point. So if there's maybe a comment that someone made saying, hey, we did XYZ with P&J Construction, so be aware of that when you're talking to them. So you have all that information coming from your underlying enterprise repository. So for documents, let's say that to resolve their problem, they're missing a policy document. Now I can add documents. I can do what I just showed you before, adding something from my desktop, but more powerfully, I can add documents from my content repositories. So let's say I know that this document exists and it didn't get associated with their policy case the right way. So I can say attach repository insurance document, and then I can search my repositories, again, all of them, not just one or two, to find the document that this customer is missing. So let's say it's additional something. It's an additional policy document or something that's missing along those lines. So it's going to go out and it's going to search across all the different repositories, and then I can, okay, so here's an addendum that it was missing. I can attach this document to that case. So I can solve their problem without it having to go off to another section of the business. And again, we're narrowly talking about insurance here, but the same concept applies to banking, government, any other use case that you can think of there. All right, so I've fixed their first problem with the policy. So now let's look at their question around the claim. So I'm going to go and look at the active work and workflow that's related to P&J. So again, this is filtering it, so it's only showing me a view of what's the active work for P&J Construction. So let's look at their claims. So they've got a lot of claims. They're a construction company, so I guess a lot going on. Let's look at what was processed more recently, and let's say I think it's this adjuster review one. So I can open their claim. Same thing, I can see documents related to it. I can see properties that are here, but I can also take action on it. So maybe we have a huge, robust claims processing system that's based on a bunch of enterprise software that's off in this other area of the company, but I can access it through Salesforce and take action on them from right here. So let's say I can see that, okay, this got stuck in a step because it's waiting on information. I can escalate it, or I can just push it on to the next step for that user. So now I've answered both of P&J's questions, and they're happy, or at least they're not unhappy, and I've solved their issues. So okay, third use case. So let's say I'm a new business manager. I was just hired. I was brought in to uh, make our business better, analyze our current processes, you know, have better SLA response, that sort of thing. So I really want to dive in. I want to start seeing what's going on. I want to start solving problems, improve that SLA response, make sure the customers have a better experience. But I'm a little worried because I know that, you know, my company stores documents in a bunch of different places. It has a claim system that's over here. It has a policy system that's over there. All this information is in so many different systems. I'm worried I'm going to spend a month just getting up to speed on these systems. And then even when I do, am I going to be looking at just static reports? Am I going to be looking at yesterday's information? I don't want to spend all my time swivel chairing. I want to actually dive in and understand things and solve problems. So again, solution here that we're saying is Unity for Salesforce. So I can have one view of everything, and it's not just a static view, it's a view that I can transact on. I can dive in, make changes, push workflow along, do that sort of thing. So again, wearing my business manager hat now. So let's move off of this P&J account, and let's take the broad view. Let's look across the organization. So I have a couple tabs here that, again, they look like Salesforce, but these are actually Unity for Salesforce. Let's look at my enterprise search. So this is going to give me all the documents across my organization. So it's going to search all my repositories, not limited to what's relevant to P&J. It's just giving me kind of the everything view. So let's look for commercial. So this is in you know, Google-like fashion. This is searching across the content and metadata of all my documents that are out there to show me only things that are commercial related. So I don't need to know whether it's in a claim system, underwriting system, wherever it is. I can see my documents and dive in right from here. Now, what about work? Let's say that I want to see how is work being processed? What are my queue depths? Where are things getting stuck? That sort of thing. So similarly, on this In Baskets tab, I can see the bird's eye view of all of the work that's across my organization. So in this case, it's split by policy or claim. You can create a bunch of different In Baskets or buckets to see work, to kind of slice it and dice it different ways. I mean, that work can be coming from my big enterprise BPM systems. So let's say, you know, looking at the claims again here. So let's say this adjuster review one. Same functionality you saw before. I can open it, I can look at the properties, I can see documents related to it, I can take action on it right from here. And that's really important. So if I'm a manager, I can come in and, you know, I'm not just emailing someone saying, hey, this claim is overdue, can you take care of it? I can jump in and assign it to someone. I can progress it to the next step. I can add a comment saying what happened so that the next time the customer calls, we know what's going on. So it's really tying all those capabilities together into one place, as you heard Ellis say. Okay, almost home. So fourth use case. Let's say I'm a Salesforce administrator. And I want to be clear, I'm saying a Salesforce admin, but this role could be someone who is in IT, as a part of IT. It could be someone who's a you know, citizen developer, a business power user. It's whoever has been granted this capability in your organization. It doesn't necessarily need to be IT, but it also doesn't necessarily need to be the business. So let's say I'm the person who's responsible for administering this hypothetical insurance application that you're looking at. And the business called me and they want to change something in the experience. So maybe they want to add a search to a new repository, or they want to change the view of what they're seeing. But I'm a Salesforce guy. I don't really know FileNet or Box or Alfresco that well. I don't have, you know, budget lying around to do an IT project. And the business definitely doesn't want to wait 6 months to be able to change a tab on a screen. So how do we address that? So fortunately, Unity for Salesforce has a set of low-code, no-code tools for doing configuration. So I'm going to jump into, this is the Salesforce, kind of the administrative backend. A lot of folks may be really familiar with this. Others, maybe you haven't seen this a lot. But this is where you do general Salesforce configuration. And then I'm going to go find the area where we configured the Unity for Salesforce piece. So we attached all the functionality for this demo to the account entity. But that's just one entity in Salesforce, and you can attach this functionality to really anything that has properties in Salesforce. So I could be looking at documents related to not just accounts, but also contacts within that account, or associated with opportunities, or associated with other entities that are out there. So really, the sky's the limit as far as where you can kind of connect this functionality in. So let's say the business called me up and they said, well, we like this fact that we can see all of our work related to the account, but I don't like that it's buried under this in baskets tab. I want to see my claims up front and center. So using these tools, I can add a new tab, and this is all just kind of Salesforce standard here. I'll say claims review. So I have my claims review tab, and then there's a set of Unity for Salesforce widgets that I can use to connect this tab to the claims that are in my claims system. So I'll drag in a search template because I want to be able to search and filter against claims. I'll pick a pre-configured search template, so claim review. And then you can see that it kind of automatically populates here. Now, one thing I want to be clear on before I leave this screen. So we're showing you kind of the tip of the iceberg as far as configuring Unity for Salesforce. This is using pre-configured components that we're mixing and matching, which is pretty powerful and gets you pretty far. But things like building that connection to a new repository, changing properties that are the details of them within some of these search templates. We have similarly low-code, no-code tools that you use in order to make those more in-depth changes. They're a little outside of the scope of this presentation, but if folks are interested, we'd love to show them to you. We'd love to hear your questions on that, and that's something we can maybe do on a follow-up webinar. So I'm going to hit my save button here. I'll go back and I'll just hit refresh. And now when I go back to my account, I should see that I have a nice claims review tab that's right at that kind of top level. So claims review, I click on it, shows me my claims immediately. So that's just a taste of one way that you can do this kind of configuration quickly and without writing code or jumping through a lot of hoops. So that's what I had to show, so I will turn it back over to Ellis.
All right, thank you, Andrew. So I'm going to share my screen. Andrew, just let me know when you can see it.
Okay, I can see it.
All right, so I just wanted to recap some of the key capabilities of Unity for Salesforce that you saw today. First off is a complete view and management of content and data from across your enterprise. So not only just searching one repository, but searching multiple repositories of content and data, and also business enterprise applications like workflow, all from Unity. And also being able to take full content action, in other words, view, modify, add. If you want people to do that, you don't lose any of the security or management you have from those original systems. Also, same thing applies for advanced case management and productivity tools. You can see your enterprise tasks from Salesforce entities, and of course, you can take action on those tasks right from within Salesforce. And lastly, like Andrew showed, for those of you that support teams using Salesforce, or you're in IT and you're supporting a CRM team, you can design and deploy quickly with a low-code and no-code type environment. So you can make your configurations, you can make changes, you can do them within minutes instead of having to do it within days. And we're just talking about a no-code environment there. So let's go ahead, and we've moved on with that. Let's go to the questions and answers, and I'm going to ask Rich Levins to join me. And Rich, let's take a look and see what questions have come across. It looks like we've got quite a few. So
yeah, we do have a few. So let's get started. Okay, the first one, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, great. The first one is, what applications or ECM platforms do you integrate with? Great question. So out of the box, we integrate with the IBM family of ECM products. That includes FileNet, CMOD, Content Manager, and IBM Case Manager. We also integrate with Microsoft SharePoint, Box, Alfresco, and any other ECM platform that supports the CMIS standard, which includes OpenText and Documentum. Let's see, the next question is, can the Unity for Salesforce components access content and process be placed? Oh, can the components be placed in other locations within Salesforce? Yes, I think as Andrew showed, the pages that we've added to Salesforce can be placed anywhere. So it can be placed on the prospects page, it can be placed on the cases page, wherever you need those to access the content and process and integrate with that. It can be placed anywhere. Next question. Can it default property values for uploaded documents based on data values within the application? Yes, it can. So when you're adding a document, any of the properties that are available in Salesforce can be defaulted to the add content page. So you don't basically, as I think Alice mentioned earlier, you don't have to replicate your data entry, and you don't have to miskey anything. It all comes through from Salesforce. You're just adding supplemental values that aren't in Salesforce when you're adding the content. Next question, what does the average deployment time look like? Okay, this is a great question. It really is going to vary based on the customer's requirements. It varies based, like if we're talking about a multiple platform, so if we're basically pulling content from FileNet and Box and SharePoint, if we're including process. So based on the user requirements, the timeframes are going to change. But as Andrew indicated, this is a low-code, no-code solution. So the solution will go in quite quickly. The longest part of the project is probably to define what the business requirements are and to develop the user stories, which is true in a lot of projects. Next thing, can it access emails and files? Yes, so a lot of the ECM, all the major ECM players have something, what they call content collector applications, where when an email comes in or files are placed in the network directory, they can have filters that decide what emails or what files they want to add directly to their content repository. And because we're integrating in real time, anything that hits that content repository is immediately made available in Unity for Salesforce. So instead of having to hunt and peck which emails you want to add or what files you want to add to your system, if you have these content connectors enabled, it will automatically pull it in. And then when you query for those documents, it's automatically shows up in Salesforce. Next question. Can I work with my underlying ECM or BPM systems and Unity for Salesforce at the same time? Will the changes be visible in both systems? Yes, you can work within the systems at both times. So if you can be at one time, you can be in your ECM or BPM system and add a document or take an action on a workflow, and that will be immediately available in Salesforce. And that's the last question I have.
All right. Well, with that, let's move on to a couple more things. So if you would like to contact us, if you'd like some more information on Intellective or Unity for Salesforce or any of our other products, you can come to our website, which is www.intellective.com. And if you would like to contact us and say, hey, I'd like to talk to one of your sales engineers, I'd like to talk more about Unity for Salesforce. If you go to our main page and you go to About Us and hit the Contact Us on the tab, it'll take you to a form that you'll fill out with just basic information about yourself, and it'll be sent directly to us, and we'll have the appropriate person contact you. So with that, I'd like to thank you for joining us today for our Unity for Salesforce webinar. Please pay attention to your email or however you found us, whether it was LinkedIn or our blog, for future webinars. It's something that we're going to be doing on a pretty active basis going forward. Thanks a lot, and you guys have a nice day.